Thank you for downloading this Council on Foreign Relations video. CFR is an independent national membership organization and nonpartisan research center. For more information, please visit us online at cfr.org.
Well, thank you all for being here. And a special thanks to Lisa Shields and Richard Haas for bringing us all together today. Over the past 7 years, I've worked with UNHCR and I've traveled around the world to try to bring attention to refugees and internally displaced persons. And it's been a remarkable education. On my last trip to Chad, I asked a group of refugees, what do they need? What are their concerns? And one woman said better access to water, another said medicine, another better tents. And this young boy raised his hand and he said, we need a trial. And he'd heard that morning on BBC radio that the ICC had issued arrest warrants. And it meant something to him. He was asking for what any of us would ask for, having been violated, having had many horrific things happen to his family. And yet in my heart I knew that he may never see that trial. That justice often seems like a luxury for the rich and wealthy nations. In far too many places I've been, I've seen refugees return to live among the same people that attacked them. Peace is placed before justice, often instead of justice, and often at the insistence of the perpetrator. And this is happening today with Joseph Kony in Uganda and with President Bashir in Sudan. They are threatening more violence and delaying or blocking aid if we attempt to bring them to justice. And often we listen to them. We let them dictate what will happen. We let those who destroyed their countries decide the future for their countries. And I believe, after finding myself returning to countries who after a brief period of peace are again at war, that there is no enduring peace without justice. I've seen refugees whose rations were cut nearly in half, and I've seen them waiting for the aid truck to arrive, just to find out that the aid relief was stolen by the rebels who are still active. And I've talked with little kids who had bruises, and they showed them to me, and they said, somebody came and they gave us new school supplies, but the bad guys took them away, because the bad guys were still there. And I've sat in a tent with women who were about to be returned to their homeland, women whose daughters were raped and husbands were killed, and many of their sons also killed or tortured. And I've heard them ask, how is it safe to go back? And I've watched aid workers struggle to explain that some things have been signed, some people have shaken hands. But what they don't say is that aid in their host country has run out because the international community wants to see returns and wants to see progress, but that really nothing has changed to ensure their safety, that they are returning to the same lawlessness that sent them running in the first place. And I've seen these same aid workers tear up when they put these ladies on the buses and say, I don't know what we're sending them back to. Common sense tells us that when the risks are weighed, the decisions are made very differently. When crimes against humanity are punished consistently and severely, the killer's calculus will change. And when a killer is allowed to walk away from his crimes, I believe that also tells him something. It sends a message to the next that they need not worry, that they will most likely not be held accountable for their actions. I believe that the existence of trials alone has the potential to change behavior. But ultimately, we need to arrest those who are indicted. And the Sudanese arrest of Ali Kusheb appears to be a positive development, but not if it becomes a bargaining chip that will stop others from being brought to justice. Without an arrest, we tell the victims of these atrocities that impunity is the rule of law. Now, I don't know if the ICC is the answer. And I don't know what type of court is or what it would need to be for all of us to agree and make it strong enough. I have no idea. And after 7 years of traveling into the field, I find that I have a lot I need to learn. But I do know this. No mother who had her children killed in front of her. No young girl sold into slavery. No boy kidnapped and forced to be a child soldier. And no young girl like the 3-year-old I met in Sierra Leone who had her limbs cut off should be expected to simply forget. No one should have to choose between peace or justice. And that young boy in Darfur who asked for a trial deserves one. So thank you very much for letting me speak. I will pass the time.
Thank you very much, Angie. That was great. I'm Nicholas Kristof from the New York Times. First of all, just a couple of housekeeping items. Number one is to please turn off your cell phone and don't just put it to vibrate. Anybody who puts it to vibrate will be prosecuted. We have a prosecutor right here.
Not by me.
And in addition, in contrast to usual council form, this meeting is on the record. So please do go forth and report or blog. It is also being broadcast on the web as well. And so, first of all, let me just very briefly introduce the chief prosecutor. Luis Moreno-Ocampo is from Argentina. He started his career as a lawyer and young prosecutor there in reaction to the dirty war of Argentina. In 2003, he became the chief prosecutor of the ICC. And then, as you know, last summer, he sought an arrest warrant for President Bashir of Sudan. So with that, Louis.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me here. I would especially like to thank the Jolie-Pitt Foundation for promoting this dialogue at the Council on Foreign Relations. Particular thanks go to Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt for the consistent support that they have offered my office since they visited the court 2 years ago. I was impressed because in our first meeting, Angelina Jolie told me that after visiting more than 25 refugee camps in different parts of the world, she asked herself, who is doing something for these people? Who is doing something to confront the roots of the problems these refugees are facing? Who will help them to solve the problems? They are in desperate situation. They cannot protect their own rights. And this is particularly true for the displaced people in Darfur. I am the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court. The court is based in the Rome Treaty. In 1998, states decided to create a permanent and independent criminal justice system. They did it based on ideals, but also on self-interest. They knew that in the new world, in the world of today, no country has enough power or legitimacy to protect its own citizens. As of today, 108 states have ratified the statute, and many are about to do it. The Rome Treaty established my mandate. I had to end impunity to contribute to the prevention of future crimes. I had to investigate impartially and present evidence to the judges. I had to apply one standard, the law. In March 2005, acting under Chapter 7 of the UN Charter, the Security Council referred the Darfur case to my office. The Council decided that any solution in Darfur will require justice. And I see this meeting as an opportunity for the people in Darfur They need you. It's an opportunity for them, because maybe you can design and propose a comprehensive solution for them with justice, but also with effective armed protection, with distribution of humanitarian assistance and genuine peacemaking. Today is the time to design and implement such policy. Today, massive crimes are being committed in Darfur. The camps in Darfur are a crime scene. Thousands of women and young girls are being raped. 2.5 million people, a substantial part of three groups, the Fur, Masalit, and Zagagwa, are subjected to conditions of life calculated to bring about their physical destruction. Despite promises and denials, over the last 5 years, they are victimized. People in Darfur have no representation. People in Darfur are not represented neither in the Sudan nor in New York. And that you can do. Some of you can represent them, can help them to be represented here in New York. People in Darfur are targeted, and that for me is the most difficult issue to understand living in New York. People in Darfur are targeted by the very officials who are responsible for protecting them. Public officers are raping them. It's a public work to rape these women. This is key to understanding the plight of the Darfurians. Today, judges of the International Criminal Court are considering our application for an arrest warrant against Mr. al-Bashir, the current president of the Republic of the Sudan, for genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes. Should judges rule in favor of the request, they will issue an arrest warrant and transmit it to the government of the Sudan for enforcement. For us, arrest is the responsibility of the territorial state. The court is not asking for international forces to intervene, but there will be need for innovative, strong, and consistent diplomatic and political action by all actors to ensure compliance with the court decision. Ladies and gentlemen, let me explain the case. Since June 2005, my office has carried out an investigation under extremely difficult circumstances. I have a legal duty to protect my witnesses, and therefore I cannot protect those living in Darfur. Therefore, we decided not to call witnesses living today in Darfur. We had to investigate Darfur without visiting Darfur. We received information from many sources, including the government of the Sudan, and were helped by thousands of documents collected by the UN Commission of Inquiry. We contacted victims all over the world and interviewed more than 100 witnesses in 18 countries. And the victims, those who escaped from Darfur, in spite of all the pain, told us their stories. One woman described how they killed her baby and then raped her. A man told us they forced me to watch as they raped my 8-year-old daughter. I was asking why, this man said. We turned those stories into evidence. On this basis, on April 2007, the Presider Chamber 1 of the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant against Ahmed Haroun and Ali Kushib for 51 counts of crime against humanity and war crimes. I like to explain to you what the evidence shows, because this information has to be factored in any plan you can develop. The evidence shows that the Sudanese armed forces, acting in concert with militia Janjaweed, attacked hundreds of villages inhabited by Fur, Masalit, and Sagawa groups. Helicopters and aircraft dropped bombs. Ground forces killed, tortured, and raped thousands of civilians. The attackers destroyed all means of survival, source of water, and stripped the villages, destroying schools, mosques, and hospitals. As a result of the attack, at least 35,000, this is the most conservative number, 35,000 people have been killed. The UN say that almost 300,000 of those who fled the attack died of starvation and disease. More than 200,000 people managed to reach refugee camps in Chad or Central African Republic, and almost 2.5 million people went to the outskirts of bigger cities that could become camps for internally displaced persons. What the first case show? The first case confirmed one fact: the attacks against civilians in their homes, the massive campaign of rapes, the forced displacement of 3 million people were not the product of autonomous self-defense militias or the result of inter-tribal clashes. They were the actual goal of an operation planned and implemented by the Sudanese armed forces, supported by reservist forces, integrating tribal militia called Militia Janjaweed. The mobilization of local militia allowed Mr. al-Bashir for years to disguise the conflict as a tribal one that had nothing to do with state forces. Mr. al-Bashir created the illusion of militia Janjaweed autonomy, and this helped him to continue to carry out the genocide in the face of the international community. Our first Darfur case exposed the role of Ahmed Haroun, then Minister of State for the Interior. Other names, like Musa Hilal and other tribal leaders, were more notorious, but they were not the most responsible of crimes. All of them were under the command of military officers, the militia integrated as reservist force within the state apparatus and coordinated by Haroun, a minister. As I say, the victims were attacked by those same officials who were supposed to protect them. Ladies and gentlemen, on 14th of July of this year, I present to the judges my second case in the Darfur situation, covering crimes committed after March 2003 to the present. I request an arrest warrant against Mr. Bashir. The evidence in this case highlights three aspects, all of them known, but all of them denied. Al-Bashir ordered the crimes, it's a genocide, and it's happening now. Al-Bashir ordered the crimes, yes, he ordered the military campaign, he ordered the attacks on the village, and he ordered today the attacks on the camps. Al-Bashir has genocidal intention. Al-Bashir assessed that the Fur, Masalit, and Sagawa ethnic groups constitute a threat to his power. They challenged the economic and political marginalization of the regions, and some members of these groups engaged in armed rebellions. Al-Bashir's goal was not simply to defeat a rebellion, but to destroy those ethnic groups whose members challenged his power. His motives were largely political. His pretext was a insurgency, his intent was genocide. And interesting, this is not new. In 2004, already, Professor Alex de Waal wrote, "This is the routine cruelty of a security cabal. It's humanity withered by years in power. It is genocide by force of habits." And he said this in 2004, and it's still happening. That's the problem. The genocide is being committed now. This group are systematically attacked, first in their village and now in the camps. Mr. al-Bashir is providing no meaningful assistance to those millions displaced and is hindering the humanitarian assistance of the international community. Fear, rape, and hunger are the main weapons of the current phase of the genocide. One victim of rape explained, "They kill our males and dilute our blood with rape. They want to finish us as a people. End our story, our history." Another victim in the desert overheard one attacker say, "Don't waste your bullet. They have nothing to eat and they will die from hunger." They don't need gas chambers. They don't need bullets. They don't need machetes. Fear, rape, and hunger is destroying the communities. And interestingly, since September 2005, Mr. Ahmed Haroun, al-Bashir appointed Mr. Ahmed Haroun now as the Minister of State for Humanitarian Affairs. You can see the graph. As soon as the people were displaced, he was appointed to keep control of them, to keep attacking them. He's still a critical piece in the implementation of al-Bashir plan. And these are the facts that had to be understood in order to plan a solution for this problem. The HAC, the Humanitarian Aid Commission, within this ministry, works in close association with the intelligence and security apparatus. They block the delivery of food, of aid, expel relief staff, deny visas and travel permits to aid workers. As a consequence, 2.5 million people in the camps today are subject to conditions of life calculated to bring about their physical destruction. This is genocide. Ladies and gentlemen, the court is doing its part. The pre-trial chamber requested my office to present additional information by 17th of November. This is normal. The decision on al-Bashir arrest warrant is in their hands. But states have to be prepared. The judges will decide on the arrest warrant, and states should adjust to this simple fact sooner than later. We are not going away. The call for justice is not going away. The arrest warrant, if issued, will not go away. States and multilateral organizations have to plan for the post-arrest warrant situation. They have to plan for the scenario after the arrest warrant is issued. And that's the point. There is a need to better integrate the judicial, humanitarian, and political efforts. For almost 1 year, the first arrest warrant was ignored by mediators and political leaders in the discussion on Darfur. They ignored the court decisions, and even most important, they ignored the facts. They ignored Haroun's role in the HAC, the main obstacle to humanitarian assistance in the camp. But also they ignored that Haroun is member of the committee, of the UNAMID Oversight Committee, affecting the deployment of peacekeepers. And more, in August 2007, Haroun was appointed head of a committee to investigate human rights abuses in the Sudan. And the meaning of this is this is a guarantee of impunity. Mr. Bashir is telling to the others, follow my instructions, nothing happened. So Haroun is in the camps affecting people, is affecting the deployment of peacekeepers, and is now confirming that impunity will reign, and then the genocide has to be on, keep on going. That's why people in Darfur need you. They need you to define a new comprehensive strategy, factoring in the information contained in our applications and the fact of the arrest warrant. Arrest warrant had to be executed. They not only serve the interest of justice, they can help to alleviate the humanitarian situation, facilitate the deployment and operation of UNAMID, and reach lasting peace agreement. It is about justice, but it's also about realpolitik. Massive crimes are not just a moral problem. They are, but also massive crimes cross borders, destabilize entire regions, and affect world security. So let me conclude. Given the international attention in Darfur, imposing conditions calculated to bring about the physical destruction of the target groups, combined with a studied misinformation campaign, was and is still the most efficient strategy to achieve complete destruction. By preventing the truth about al-Bashir's criminal intentions, concealing his crimes under the guise of a counter-insurgency strategy or inter-tribal clash or the actions of lawless autonomous militia, threatening Sudanese citizens and humanitarian workers into silence, and blackmailing the international community with the threat of derailing the North-South peace agreement, Mr. al-Bashir made possible the continuation of a genocide. That's why the Darfur case represents a unique opportunity for the international community to come together, to establish a new framework to protect individuals. As the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon said, peace and justice have to work hand in hand. The court is fulfilling its judicial mandate, but it will not be enough. International justice relies on cooperation. States and multinational institutions have to create the conditions to implement the arrest warrant and to update and harmonize all conflict management strategies with a new reality. The Council on Foreign Relations could have an important role in designing such new strategies, based on the facts and respecting the law. And you have a role. You can help people in Darfur. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let me just ask a few questions, and then we'll open up to everybody. One procedural question. The next step is for the court. How confident are you that the court will, in fact, approve the arrest warrant request?
The case in the hands of the judges. Before I request 12 arrest warrant, I got 12.
You sound pretty confident. And are you? The rumors are that the judges may be a little more nervous about the genocide count as opposed to the other two counts. Are you just as confident about all of them?
I don't know where the rumors come from. I think genocide is about intention. So everyone agrees the facts are clear. The issue is to prove the intention of al-Bashir. I believe if you see what's happened, it's impossible to. The only possible consequence of the fact is that Bashir ordered a genocide. That is my assessment. That's why I present my case, and we think we have a lot of proofs. We'll see what the judges say.
African countries and Arab countries have, at least to me, to a surprising degree, stood behind Sudan in this case, and they've been critical of the ICC's role in it, seeing as bullying on an African country or an Arab leader. What about this notion that this is a Western legal conspiracy against Sudan, against President Bashir?
Interestingly, al-Bashir is not challenging our activities in court. He organized a political and communication campaign based on 4 points. One point is the point you make. This is against Africa. Second is this will affect peace. Third is will it retaliate against people in Darfur? And fourth, I have no evidence. The 4 point I will deal with then with it in the court, but I need you and you to deal with the other three. Analyze one by one the African point you make. Al-Bashir is the one who promoted the idea that Arab tribes, that he called Arab tribes, had to attack the African tribes. All the criminals, all the perpetrators were talking about kill the Africans, kill the Nuba, kill the Sturga. So all of them are talking about kill the Africans. So who is attacking the Africans? Here it's so clear. It's Bashir attacking the Africans. 3 million people, victims, are Africans. So we are unveiling the fact, and they pretend we are affecting Africans. I think also the African leaders and Arab leaders are very important because regional organizations are critically important to solve the problems. They will find the solution. It's very important. And people are not following them well. If you read what President of Tanzania say in the General Assembly, he was very careful. He was very careful saying Africa is not requesting impunity. Africa is supporting justice. So they're discussing the timing, but they are supporting justice. And if you see the activities they are performing, I believe there is strong support. In Africa, they know the Africans are being killed, and they have to do something. It's complicated for them because it's a neighbor, and that's why they are careful. But I believe there's a strong support in Africa.
I mean, so you think that some of this rallying behind Sudan is pro forma, officially sticking with a neighbor, while it's not meaningful in any kind of political sense?
I think sometimes media follows some bites, and it's nice to see really what's happened there. And you will see they were looking for support. They were talking about have a declaration of the General Assembly. They got nothing. So I believe the world is ready for justice, and justice will prevail. The second point I like to make is this idea that if we keep doing justice, they will retaliate against the victims. And for me, this is confirming that we have to do justice, because it's confirming the criminal intention. He's trying to blackmail us, the court, the Security Council, the international community. He cannot win. So I believe that they are managing the communication strategy, and the idea that peace will be affected. Okay, peace is responsibility of the Security Council. But in March 2005, Security Council referred the case to my office, saying specifically that peace in Darfur required justice. And 3 months ago, in June 2008, unanimously, the 15 Security Council members, including China, Libya, all of them, confirmed that the Sudan has to cooperate with the court and justice is required. So they are doing the judgment.
When you sought the arrest warrant, there was a lot of hand-wringing among the humanitarian community, frankly, and among the diplomatic community, to the effect that precisely that Sudan would attack peacekeepers, would attack the camps. In fact, pretty much the opposite happened. That it was followed by a relatively quiet period with fewer attacks. And indeed, now Bashir has been launching this sort of peace process, arrested Ali Kushaib, and most strikingly, until now in Sudan, there's legal impunity for rape if you wear a uniform, if you are a member of the police or armed forces, and they are actually talking about amending that law. I mean, you see this process. Do you see this as completely a fictional, for show presentation to the world, or do you think there is potentially anything there at all?
I think it's good that they start to talk about peace, but words are nothing. Arresting Kushaib is nothing. Harun is still the Minister for Humanitarian Affairs. Harun is still in charge of the deployment, so Harun is still there. And both had to be arrested. And you say, it's not just they are not prosecuted when they rape women. Let me emphasize this. They receive instructions. The order is to rape women. It's a state activity to rape women. So how they could prosecute the rapists if they get instructions? When in the Gushib case, officially they say that they will prosecute him if they receive evidence. Who will go to give them the evidence? So, and also, why Gushib and not Harun? Why Harun is still the minister? So, my case is admissible.
There is also some talk that within the NCP, within the ruling Sudanese party, that there is pressure on Bashir and a decision that if he is indeed indicted by if the court approves the arrest warrant, that he will not continue, he will not remain on as president for the rest of the NCP. Is that, I wondered if Sudanese officials had reached out to you with any kind of a message like that or proposing any kind of a deal in any way.
I think you have more information than me. Tell them what you know. Tell them. You know.
Just between us.
It's just on the record. 2 cameras filming.
What about the possibility of doing a deal, though? I mean, is that something... there is this tradition of, with Idi Amin, for example, going to Saudi Arabia with baby Doc Duvalier, you know, where a really terrible leader is, sent off to somewhere else. Yeah. Would you be open to that kind of a deal?
It's good that you mentioned Idi Amin, because what happened after that, for 20 years, LRA was abducting hundreds thousands of children and killing thousands of people there. What happened? Who was the killer? Nothing else. That's the point. Humanity learned providing impunity will not solve the problem. Look, you have the South-North agreement in Sudan. And of course, who command this operation? Harun also was there in the Kordofan. So we have to learn. Justice needed. And that is the 21st century framework. And that's why we need Council on Foreign Relations, discussing how to achieve both at the same time. How justice will help to stop the crimes and to make peace. She said that. No? She said, what's the message we are sending? Impunity or you will be punished. And they listen. Armies all over the world are adjusting the rules to the Rome Treaty. Militias in Colombia, in Sri Lanka, in Somalia, think in the possibility that we prosecute them. So this is a new fantastic tool. It's the same what you're doing inside the countries. The law is allowing you to live together. There's no enemy or friend here. It's respect for the law who allow you to live together. Now the same idea is in the global community. And Darfur is the first case. It's a test for us.
And so as you prepare your legal documents, is your aim justice in this particular case, or is your aim peace for Sudan as a whole, improvement of the quality of life for people in those camps?
My only aim is fulfill my duties. I'm a prosecutor. The law was passed by 120 states, and it ratified 108, and the Security Council referred the case to us. So all this is the law, and I will do what the law say. And the law say I have to do cases to contribute to the prevention of future crimes. That's why we need this integration. We need to harmonize the concept, because, of course, prosecuting people is not enough. You have here prosecutor office, but also you have police, and you have health, and you have many other aspects. We have to build the same in the global scenario. So I'm doing my piece, and informing you, okay, to succeed, we need also others, actors involved, harmonizing what we are doing.
I'm pushing you on this a little bit. I mean, you and Angie both talked about peace and justice, the interest of both being in harmony. But, I mean, aren't there indeed some situations where there is a real trade-off, and where the more you push the justice button, you're undermining the prospects for pursuing peace? And, how do you resolve that?
I don't need to resolve that. I have a mandate. I have to do justice. But that's the point. I cannot adjust to political considerations. Politicians have to adjust to the law. That's basic, but that is reality. So that's the point. This is a new framework, and then the leaders have to understand, we have to respect the new framework. And my role is to put the framework, so I cannot adjust.
And has it been disappointing to see, post your July decision, the degree to which even members of the Security Council were not exactly lining up and applauding.
In June, formally they signed 15 states support. So, but in any case, I had to do it in any case. So I'm not looking for votes.
You mentioned the legal duty to protect your sources. I wondered whether, obviously Sudan's security forces do have tremendous reach. I wondered if there had been attempts to intimidate or threaten your sources in various parts of the world outside Sudan, in Europe.
They don't know where they are. No, they don't know. That's why we are keeping them confidential. And the point, not just keep sources anonymous, is when we interview a person, it's the beginning of the long relation. We have to protect them. That's why we never went to Darfur to interview people, because we cannot protect them there. And that's why we keep the information confidential.
And so, are you pretty confident that down the road, at some point, President Bashir will be in a courtroom and these charges will be heard against him?
I am pretty confident we have a solid case. I will see what the judges decide. And if the judges decide to issue an arrest warrant against Mr. Bashir, the destiny of Mr. Bashir is the court. When it will happen, I don't know, and will depend in part of you. And the court has time. We're a permanent court, but the victim has no time. So that's why the issue now is we are doing this, will be this a judicial decision, how the states plan. General Clark talked about plan. Yes, you have to plan how to implement the court decisions and how to harmonize with the other aspects.
After the Milosevic indictment, then China, it took about 5 minutes for China to hang Milosevic out to dry. Is that going to be what is the indictment, assuming that it comes by the court, is that going to make, do you think, a huge difference in how the African community, Arab community, China, how the world treats Bashir?
In court, we have solid evidence, and they can challenge in court, but I'm pretty confident on the judicial aspect. The other aspect depends on how decisive is the international community. Has the international community a strong conviction to stop the crimes? If they have, they will do it immediately. If not, things will be more complicated.
Several times now you've called on us to do things. What do you want us to do?
Wait, you can write a lot of things, but you are doing that. You are doing that. No, but I came for this place. It's a Council on Foreign Relations. So you're a think tank thinking in U.S. strategy, and I think it's important. You will have to think what the strategy for Darfur. But there are other people here who are not from U.S. And they also can help the Darfuris. Today I was with the victim, and no one is representing them. And so they need people in New York helping them to reach Security Council members, to reach African Union, to be sure they are respected. And they don't need a lot. 3 or 4 of the talent people here helping Darfuris will make a change. And that's what I'm saying. Each of us has a role. Each of us could play. No one is so small, no one is so big.
I'd like to open the conversation now. We do have a mic going around. If I call on you, then please do identify yourself, and please do limit yourself to questions as opposed to long statements that end with a question mark. Mark.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Mark Hannes with the Genocide Intervention Network. I believe you or some of your staff have met with the 2 candidates, Obama or Biden, or if not, you will probably be talking to them or your staff in January. When the Bush administration took office, Sudan was a big issue of theirs, and it wasn't until 6 months later that they confirmed their Assistant Secretary of State for Africa, and it wasn't until 9 months later, in September, that Jack Danforth was Special Envoy. Given this context of how the U.S. is going to take months to assign someone to be our representative on this issue of Sudan, how are you adjusting your plans given this delay?
I'm sorry, but I never met them.
Okay.
And The U.S. is not a third party, so normally we have not a strong relation. So my plans are not including a lot U.S.
Yes. Right here. Yeah.
Me? Yes. Good to see you, sir, again. I just want first to see if you agree with the premise that some people say that for this new culture of end of impunity to succeed, it must be universal and must be independent. Do you agree with that first?
Absolutely.
Okay. The universality of the ICC, I'm sure you realize you cannot persecute crimes committed in Tibet or in Chechnya or in Abu Ghraib because these countries are not members of the ICC. And they're also permanent members of the Security Council, and they have a veto, i.e. the Security Council will never be able to refer cases to you like they did with Darfur. How do you see this as being solved? And secondly, about the independence, your sources sometimes, or many cases, are intelligence, Western intelligence. And do you see that in any way undermined your independence? And would you like your own investigative unit that is completely independent from other intelligence services? Thanks.
Can you introduce yourself? Can you tell them who are you? Because this man is very important.
My name is Talal Hajam, the Bureau Chief Al Arabiya Television. Thanks.
Yes. Can I tell a story you mentioned? No. That's a great story. Okay. No, I like to. I visit many Arab countries, because I would say my biggest challenge is to keep impartiality, to keep the perception of impartiality. And that's, in the world, is very difficult. When you are in an Arab country and you see TV, all the time you see Arab people being killed, all the time. So the perception they have is the Westerners are attacking us. And whatever they see from outside is the Western guys. In some Al Jazeera web, they call us the American court. They have no idea about the U.S. position on the court, but they call the American court because they can see in black and white. And I can understand them, because what they feel is what he says is double standard. Justice to my enemies, protection to my friends. It's not justice. And that for me is a challenge, because, as he said, I cannot open cases in Lebanon, I cannot open cases in Iraq, I cannot open cases in Zimbabwe, I cannot open cases in Chechnya. I have areas in which the states are not party, and I cannot do it. But what I can promise you, and on the record on 2 cameras, is in the cases I will have no double standard. That's what we need. And in fact, if you came from the South, this idea that justice for the North and the South are not justice is a little insulting us. Because in my country, the government killed 30,000 people with no trial. That's why for us, trials are very important. So it's our culture, it's not your culture. Or maybe you had with the Syrians, but now it's the global culture. The law, dignity is not for one group. People want dignity. And trials are a ritual in which people feel respected, because the witness and the victim are respected, even the criminals are respected. So that's what we want, and that's why we need to move things to avoid double standards. Will take time. I feel the problem, yes, without universality, people feel, why you are not doing Iraq, why you are not doing these cases? And I cannot do it. I have the legal answer. But on the second issue, I can tell you, I receive zero intelligence on my cases. Okay? So we are getting information from ourselves. We are not receiving information from intelligence groups.
One reason you've been accused of partiality has been that there's a perception in some quarters that you've been more aggressive in going after the Sudanese government than in going after Sudanese rebels. Is that fair?
The criteria we are using to select cases is gravity. And in terms of gravity, is no doubt the members of the government were committing the worst crimes. But in any case, rebels groups are attacking peacekeepers. And the gravity is not in the number, it's the quality. If they are attacking peacekeepers, they are affecting the life of the people displaced. That's why we promised in December that we'll do a 3rd case against rebels. I can tell you here that in a couple of weeks, I will present my 3rd case against some rebel commanders who were attacking African Union peacekeepers in Hashkanita.
We make some news here. Okay. Yes.
Thank you for your talk on Darfur. I'm confused, though. You are a prosecutor, acting independently.
Claudia, can you also just identify yourself?
Yeah, sure. Claudia Rosette with the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. But you've just given a speech that sounded to me highly political. In fact, it was a campaign, as to my understanding. You thanked a private foundation for its support. You urged people here to do things to support you. You asked for strategy. You did a whole series of things which one might expect from politicians or perhaps diplomats, but it's very hard to imagine a prosecutor in mid-case doing that. Could I ask, is that part of your brief? Is this what we can expect from any prosecutor who comes to work for the ICC? And a follow-on question. Given that there is some discretion in what you do focus on, let me pick, well, a further question. I've been trying to see the difference between Sudan and North Korea, apart from the fact that in North Korea, people die horribly in less public view. Nick Kristof can't go there and interview them as freely as he can in Darfur. And my question there is, it may not be possible for you to prosecute the government of North Korea or the government of China, but the UNHCR keeps an airy, pleasant office in Beijing from which it has refused for 15 years to challenge China to do anything to set up a single refugee camp, to receive people who try to escape North Korea. Can you prosecute the UNHCR for criminal negligence? Thank you.
I have no jurisdiction on crime committed in North Korea, so the answer is legal. You have to understand, I have a legal mandate, but the operation requires international cooperation. And international, that's why I was prosecuted in Argentina. It's a wild country, not a perfect situation in terms of legal compliance. But in my years of prosecutor, I never met with a president or a politician to request, because when we instruct something, when the judge issues a decision, the police just go. Here, it's different, because the decision of the judge had to be executed by states and multinational institutions. So they had to decide to do it, and the effort they are trying to achieve will depend on their own interest.
In theory, could you prosecute the UNHCR if you got a mandate, had a case, if there were interest?
Okay, let me finish this part, and then I will go back to the other part. So the problem is, normally if you see what you have, you are in a country which has a very strong judiciary, but it's a result of centuries that you have a community first, you have the law, then you have the judges, and you have the prosecutor. Here we start in the global community with no state, with no community, with the law and prosecutor and judges. Imagine US without the White House, without the US Congress, without the FBI, without the army, but with a judge, with 18 judges and one prosecutor, so they had to convince Delaware and California to help to do a case against in Minnesota. So that's the problem. International community is not yet a community. That's why, yes, I need states understanding their duties, I need multinational institutions keeping consistency, and I need global citizens. That's why I thanked Angelina Jolie. Because what is a community today? My community is my neighbor, my community is my city, my community is my country, is my region, but it's my world. And that is my jurisdiction, the world. So yes, it's new, it's different, and then I will do nothing political in court, and I'm not doing something political here. I'm planning my mandate. I'm telling you, if you are concerned about justice, you have to do something, because you have to be an active member of the community. That's why I thank those who organized this meeting. On the second question you mentioned, I will explain. There are three ways to start a case. There has to be a crime committed by a national or state party in the territory of a state party, or a Security Council can refer to me a case. So that is the way in which I can start cases. But I need a crime under my jurisdiction.
Yes. Right here.
Thanks. Stuart Patrick, Council on Foreign Relations. What, if any, support has the U.S. government given to you with respect to the Bashir case, beyond not opposing its referral to your office? And a very live question now in Washington, which is related, is what would the U.S. do, what could it do to advance your work short of necessarily joining as a full member of the ICC? Are there certain things that you would look for from the United States in terms of providing evidence or other sorts of materials for your work?
No, I respect national states, those who decide to join the court and those who decide not to join the court. But the Darfur case is Security Council referral. So all the UN countries have to support it. And that's it. That's what I expect. A consistent support, a consistent line, recognizing the fact, understanding that Harun could not be a minister, executing the arrest warrant, taking in consideration the information we provide, not allowing Harun to be, for instance, people are worried about North-South conflict. And they ignored that in March, Harun was sent to Abyei. And of course, Abyei was attacked by militias, and 50,000 people escaped. And we ignore that. So we are unveiling facts, and this is my work, show what happened, who's committing crimes. And then we need now international actors factoring this, taking this in consideration. US and all the others. Of course, US is a big country, so it would be great if US support fully the decision of the court. In the Darfur case, it's no legal excuse. You have a duty to do it.
And would you like to see, the U.S., would you like to see Washington be sort of working more with African or Arab states to encourage, more pressure on the Sudanese leadership? Try to peel.
I'm not sure to say that, but you're not very popular in Africa and the Arab world.
Maybe we should do the opposite. And
2 years ago, African Union invited 2 presidents from outside Africa for the meeting. You know who were there? One is the Prime Minister of Iran, and the other was Chavez, the President of Venezuela. So if you think how popular are you, check this.
Yes. I'm trying to choose people as far away from the microphones as possible, as you can see.
Yeah, you're very good on it.
Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I was there when you came to the African ambassadors to address this issue.
Can you please identify yourself here?
My name is Eid Bedel Mohammed. I'm the Deputy Permanent Representative of Somalia to the UN.
Of
Somalia.
Somalia.
I want to put the record straight. Somalia is a member of African countries. And the African are the most supporters of the creation of the International Criminal Court. And up to this day, we support the International Criminal Court, and we work with the enforcement of this institution. And we understand the viability of this institution. That's why you have many African countries who support the resolutions in the GA or any other issues that have been addressed. But this is a dilemma.
If you can formulate this as a question.
Yes. The question is very simple. You hear the news that most of African head states are reluctant on this indictment. And at the same time, they support the International Criminal Court. The reason is they have a forces in their ground. The African countries are the countries who deploy forces in Darfur for the greater peace and stability. At the same time, they fully support the International Criminal Court and those actions. How do you reconcile the desire African to have this institution work and just to be delivered, while at the same time understand the perspective they are coming from, because they deployed forces and they do not want to put in harm's way. And that's what any state says. You cannot send your own soldiers in harm's way. But they sacrifice to deploy Darfur in order to create peace and stability, while at the same time supporting justice. So how do you reconcile this and understand their perspectives?
No, I think you make a good point. Africa is committed to solutions. Africa is committed with the court. In fact, Africa is one of the leading regions, and Africa has the biggest number of state parties. And the problem you present is correct. You have troops there, how to protect them. But at the same time, the problem is, if you keep Harun in charge, will never be enough peacekeepers. It's like to send firefighters, but keep the arsonist in charge. If you keep the arsonist in charge, will never be enough firefighters. But in any case, I agree with you. African Union has a big role in supporting and encouraging peace, and I count on them.
I'm Matthew Bishop with The Economist. In Zimbabwe recently, the post-election negotiations, it seems that the fear of not being prosecuted, the fear of being prosecuted was a real factor in Mugabe deciding to stay, and certainly his henchmen around him refusing to do a deal with the opposition. Would it be helpful to you in this situation to have the possibility of a plea bargaining safe haven that you could offer to leaders of countries where they could go if they go quietly in these negotiations?
It's very interesting because, I can do nothing against in Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is not the party, so I don't know what fear he has, but I can do nothing against him.
The fear was that someone somewhere would arrest him, and that the law would.
But I cannot do a case.
But can you go to the question that I actually asked, which is
in a different case,
which is in this case that you're dealing with at the moment. If you were able to go to the leaders of the Sudan and say, look, we can offer you the opportunity to go into exile, and we'll have a regime change in the country, and you will be able to live out your lives quietly, but not go to jail. Would you find it easier to bring about the peaceful reconciliation within that country that we'd all like to see, or is this legal process actually meaning that people who know that they would go to jail for the rest of their lives just dig in and become more dictatorial and less willing to cooperate with the international community?
It's interesting, keeping them in position also will be dictatorial. No? So, in any case, the law says nothing about plea bargain. I cannot do that. But they will receive a fair trial, and I can advise them to have a good lawyer. Yes.
Peggy Higgs with Human Rights Watch. I wanted to follow up on the points about the perception of the court in Africa. One of the shortcomings of international tribunals to date has been that they haven't reached out enough to the general population and gained the credibility and legitimacy they need to be able to do their work well. And I know this is something that your office and the ICC has tried to work on. But to what extent do you think that those efforts are working? What resources do you need to do it better? And to what extent do you think that the views that have been expressed by African leaders reflect those of the populations, their populations?
We are working deeply. We are working in the middle of conflicts. So society is deeply divided. It's very difficult sometimes they have their own vision and they are fighting, and so it's complicated. We are doing the best we can to inform them, but I know it's complicated. I use normally to explain how difficult it is to explain people what we are doing is, and how difficult for the prosecutor before the trial starts to convince people is that in Argentina, when I prosecuted General Videla, the former president of the country, my mother was against me. I could not convince my mother for months. When I was doing the investigation, she was thinking, no, you're wrong. He protects us. He fights the guerrillas. He protects us. He's like my father because my grandfather was a general. And when the trial started, my mother changed her mind. She called me and said, I still love General Videla, but he has to be in jail. So what I would say, no, because the trial give order. So I would say, yes, it is a process. Human Rights Watch could help, could explain, but it's a process. And trials help normally, but it's a process to explain, and people is getting the idea. That's why we need other actors.
Does your mother have a position on the prosecution of President Bashir?
No, because she died.
Okay. Yes.
Hi, Mark Plasek from the World Bank. Although earlier in my life I worked at the War Crimes Tribunal in The Hague on the Slobodan Milosevic and Srebrenica genocide cases.
Wow.
Both of those cases, as you know, the big challenge is proving the mens rea, the specific intent for genocide. And I'm curious to know if you could outline, in your case, just a general outline, how you would go about proving the mens rea, the specific intent for proving Bashir had the intent to destroy and hold apart the population.
Yeah, we mentioned 21 factors, but let me say, in fact, Bashir was pretty vocal. In March 2003, he gave public instruction to the army to quell the rebellion, take no prisoner nor wounded. And many times he say, I don't like prisoner, I like just scorched earth. And so he said that. And then he's the chief of the army, the president of the country, the chief of the party, the chief of all the security services. And for 5 years, the army, the air force, and the militias incorporated were doing these attacks. It's a big operation. Thousands of people working for years. You believe he could not be involved in this? So we have these specific statements, and then we have a lot of different indicia showing, confirming that when he say, I don't like prisoner wounded, he's saying, kill all of them. So, okay, this is basic. I have 20 pages on this, but this is a very brief summary to have some ideas. I think it's very clear. When you put it together, it's very clear.
We have time for one last question. Yes, in the back.
Yes, hi, Mr. Prosecutor. I'm Kate Hunt, the UN representative for CARE International. If we could go back to the community level again, I'd be interested in hearing from you what the court is doing. You've been saying you protect the identities of victims and others that are testifying. What is the court's role in compensation and community recovery, victim recovery? Because I think that's an interesting element of the court's work.
Thank you. Yes, one of the new innovations of this court is that the victims have a role. This is more normal in the civil law countries, less used in the Anglo-Saxon culture, but the victim can have a role in the proceedings, and even they can request compensation. And in fact, in one of the cases, Mr. Bemba case, he had a lot of assets, so we freeze assets. So we freeze the plane, houses, money. So it will be a case in which the very poor people in Central African Republic can request compensation if Mr. Bemba is convicted. This will be on trial. In the meantime, we are trying to care of them. Before we interview a witness, we first analyze the security of for her or him. Then, normally, when they were traumatized, they were raped or something like that, we send first a psychologist to do an assessment on how the person is, and then we train our people to be very careful with them. And from those days, we had the duty to protect them. So we have established mechanism to protect them. So that's what we as a prosecutor are doing with them. And then victims could be compensated monetarily with money, but also there's something that we have a trust fund in the court, who's also working in other aspects of compensation. It's not just about money, it's about other aspects of compensation. So this is a new idea and had to be developed, so maybe you can help. But let me say something, because I don't like what I said to you about the legal advice. I'm sorry, it was not a good answer. Basically, as a prosecutor, I cannot offer deals. My role is to establish the law in the cases, and that's what I have to do. I cannot be involved in the political deals. That's why I need to convey this message to the Council on Foreign Relations. Those involved in agreements, they had to make agreements respecting the law. That is the new scenario. So it's a new situation in which what happened with Idi Amin 20 years ago is gone, never again. Now it's a new scenario, the law is there. If you commit crimes, you will be prosecuted, you have problems. And that they have to be clear, and they had to have a problem. And that's our responsibility in the Darfur case, that they had to be arrested. Yes, because that will set the example for the future. It is the beginning of a new era. That's why we need to mutual understanding.
We're going to adjourn right now. There will be a reception in the area as you came in. But first, please join me in thanking Angie for hosting us and the prosecutor for
Thank you for watching this Council on Foreign Relations video. For additional audio, video, and transcripts of CFR meetings, as well as expert analysis of international news, please visit us online at cfr.org.